ISC Bangalore. She's a senior professor, has several years of experience, and she's part of the biochemistry department. And she is also founder of HealthSick Private Limited, HealthSick Precision Medicine Private Limited, and where she has received the BIG grant under the Big 19th Call, and she applied for the biomarker for diagnosis of extrapulmonary tuberculosis. And translates such insights into the biomarker and drug discovery. And second was and she works and she's founder of Zero Cow Factory, an initiative where she's trying to come with on recombinant, a kind of a recombinant process for production of milk protein in Gir cattle, Bos premises indicus. So what they are trying to do is that it's basically Asia's process combination and agriculture space. So,
ma'am, can you please fix your internet? Nothing is audible actually.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a bit intermittent. It says your network bandwidth is low. Not sure.
Can you hear me, Sonalika, now?
Yes, ma'am. It's better. Yes.
Now hear me. Can you hear me now? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. It's better now, but the network bandwidth is still low.
Okay. Just inform me if there is some network connectivity issue or you're not able to hear me. I guess I'm audible now.
Yes, ma'am, it's much better.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So shall I start with the introductions again if I was not audible?
Yes, ma'am, that'd be helpful.
Okay. So I'm just starting all over again because there were certain network connectivity issues. So this webinar is basically to sensitize all the participants who are interested to apply for BIG grant. And we have collaborated with SID, which is a bioincubator of at Indian Institute of Sciences, and which is one of the most premier institutes in the country. And today we have with us two of our grantees, Professor Nagasuma Chandra, who is professor at Biochemistry Department at IISc Bangalore. She is a very senior professor and has several, and her expertise lies in the several human diseases using multiple level model of biological systems, and which translates such insights into the biomarker and drug discovery. So she applied through us at BIG for the BIG 19th call, and she received the grant for her work in biomarker for diagnosis of extrapulmonary tuberculosis. She is a founder of HealthSick Precision Medicine Private Limited, and so she is a professor and entrepreneur simultaneously. So another grantee we have with us under the industrial biotechnology domain area. She's Mrs. Parni Kapadia, and she's the founder of Zero Cow Factory, an initiative which is Asia's first initiative for to come up with animal-free dairy products through fermentation process and in the cellular agriculture domain area. And for BIG call, they have received the grant for their project. They are trying to make milk protein of Gyr cattle boss primigenius indicus at the lab scale level. So this is going to be animal-free protein they are trying to produce at lab. So in this call, we'll be focusing towards the grantees' journey, how they have applied, the kind of, hurdles, hurdles they have faced while their application, and basically we'll be talking about their experience as an applicant, and they can share the tips as well with the participants for for their application. And before we start with the we move towards the grantees, I'll be just giving a very short introduction about SIC and the BIG application process. Then we can have a session about the BIG uh, experience and BIG application with the grantees. So just to give a short introduction about myself, I'm currently a BIG program manager at SIC IT Kanpur. And with the 22 years of establishment of SISC, we have more than 127 incubated startups, and 130 startups have been graduated from our incubation centers. We have supported more than 300 innovators, and more than 35 women-led innovations have been supported, and the startups have received more than 100 CR of external follow-on funding. Our current portfolio consists of startups across several domain areas like healthcare, agriculture, IT hardware, educational technology, clean tech, waste to value, and sanitation. And so if you believe that you have some innovative idea, and even if it is in the ideation stage or at the prototyping stage or seed, if you're looking for some seed fund or even for a scale up, so we have a variety of funding programs at SISC at our incubation center. For example, for ideation, we have number of fellowship programs like IITK Innovation Fellowship, TIDE, EIR, SPERSH, Nidhi EIR. For prototyping, we have BIG. So BIG is the focus of this talk, and we have PRISM, Nidhi Prayas, TIDE MVP grant. For seed fund, we have Barrick Seed Fund, IITK Innovation Seed Support, Nidhi Seed Support, and TIDE Seed Fund. And for scale up, we have, for example, PRISM 2, which is for the ideas and entrepreneurs who are looking for scale up of their proposed work or products. So basic BIG application process basically happens around twice a year. So the first call happens and opens around 1st January till 15th February. And for the second call, which is currently open now, the call ends at around 16th August, 5:30 p.m. in the evening. So to be eligible for BIG, you should have basic graduation degree. Or if you're applying as a startup, your startup should be less than 5 years of age. BIG supports research-based business ideas to the proof of concept and validation. It is a royalty-based grant which offers money up to 50 lakh rupees. By royalty, it means that you have to pay the 5% royalty once you have started making sales and the company has started making revenue. So you have to pay the 5%. You have to pay Barrick 5% royalty on the sales till you have returned the entire 50 lakh rupees. The duration is for 18 months, and it is not a research-based grant. So basically, it is for the ideas or the entrepreneurs or which who are looking forward for something to commercialize their ideas and have a startup. So under the biotechnology ignition grant, we have received more than 700 applications, and we have supported, currently we have a cohort of around 43 grantees across the wide range of domain areas. For example, these domain areas are under the healthcare are diagnostics, medical device, drugs, vaccines, drug formulations, or delivery systems. In industrial biotechnology, it covers biofuel production, culture preparation, or even coming up with the smart proteins, which Parni will be talking about in a couple of minutes, or coming up with standardized processes, etc. In agriculture, it covered all the allied areas, or even if you have some ideas in waste to value, utilizing the agriculture waste or secondary agriculture, or so such ideas are also covered under the agriculture and waste management, basically the biological waste management. And for clean energy, if you have ideas under the clean energy, you should have some bio component in your ideas for the application. We have around 12 women entrepreneurs under the BIG, and two of them will be are part of the today's session. So they will be discussing about their journey as a grantee in this session. And just to come up with a couple of examples. In healthcare, for example, um, we have uh, we have a grantee who proposed an idea under the uh, under the 14th call, where he proposed a remedial orthosis for clubfoot disease. And another startup proposed an idea for preeclampsia screening device, which is Intignus Biotech Systems Private Limited. Then another startup proposed an idea for the development of retrofittable device for rapid urine testing. And we have another startup which proposed a novel integrated system for gynecological examination. So these are ideas under the healthcare. Couple of ideas under the healthcare and areas, novel drugs. So coming to the agriculture, which covers the agri-tech, crop improvement, and fertilizers, etc. So, so we have a startup which proposed an idea for the automatic cocoa bean separating machine, and this is basically a machine which was proposed. The size was quite huge, so the grantee tried to reduce the size and improved its efficiency. So he came up with a very compact machine with 100% efficiency to separate the cocoa beans. Another example is the smart irrigation system, where the irrigation scheduling using real-time data on water availability and requirement was proposed. Then we have another startup which proposed utilization of the agriculture waste, flour waste, basically from the temples, and using it for producing the bio-based leather, which they call fleather, and they have almost commercialized their product in the market now. Under the industrial biotechnology, just to give a couple of examples, one company proposed the development of commercially processed scheme for manufacturing of enzymatically modified stevia extract. So what they're trying to do is to propose a modified or improved uh, process for the production of stevia to get rid of the bitter-like taste, which is after lingering taste, which a user has to face while using stevia. Another startup proposed turmeric-based hydrocolloid, critical import substitute, which is a critical import substitute for the pectin. And just a few more examples. This startup has proposed utilization of poultry waste from and they have tried to extract the protein to produce bioplastics and biocomposites, and to be the substitute for the plastics, which is a major cause of pollution these days. And another startup in agriculture tried to propose smart QR codes, where they are trying to prevent the counterfeiting in seeds, pesticides, medicines, and medical implements. So for BIG, if you're interested to apply for BIG, you have to register yourself at the Barracks website, Barracks portal, and there basically you have to fill up the Barracks BIG application form, where and choose. If you're a startup, there are two forms, one for the startup and one for the individual, and you have to choose one of the 8 big partners. SIC Kanpur is one of the 8 big partners. So once you have, while you are submitting your application, or once you have submitted your applications, your idea is evaluated on the number of criterias. So while writing your application, you have to understand that your idea is technically feasible. You have provided appropriate technical details. Whatever you are proposing should have some element of novelty, whether it is in terms of, if it is not exclusively in, um, it is if the work is being done in the other parts of the world but it is not present in the country, so that such ideas can also be proposed in the category where you are offering something as an import substitute. Or you can bank upon the factors like cost or efficiency or efficacy or sensitivity of the proposed work. You should be able to clearly bring out the need and the potential impact of the proposed work, and have a clear commercialization strategy or plan, how you're going to sell your product, about your customers, knowledge about your customers, and what is the business plan, whether you'll be selling B2B or B2C or directly to the customers. So what will be your business plan? Have a sound team and mentors, which includes the technical as well as business mentors. Try to understand the potential barriers. Let's say you have proposed certain milestones, but just in case if one strategy is not working, what alternate strategies you can think of while you are executing your milestones. So have a overall sound BIG project plan. So all these factors will play critical role while your application is being evaluated for the grant. BIG is a very competitive grant, but once you are a BIG grantee, you come in the barracks list of merit list. So such grantees are usually preferred to be promoted for other funding programs as well. And plus it so therefore it assures a follow-on funding for your project. And the budget is usually divided for the 50 lakhs is usually divided into number of subheads. So for example, for equipment, uh, the allotted money is 30% of the entire grant money, which is 15 lakhs. For manpower as well, it is 30% of the entire grant money. For consumables and contingency, it is flexible. IP, it is 1.5 lakhs. Traveling, it is 1.5 lakhs. And for outsourcing as well, it is 30%, which is 15 lakhs of the entire 50 lakh rupees. So to be eligible for the grant, your idea should be, or your proposed work should be, can be at the TRL level, technology readiness level 1, which is ideation stage, where you have basic principles of technology observed, reported, and need is identified. Then you can have the proof of principle, which is at the technology readiness level 2, where the technology and application has been developed, formulated, and protocols have been developed. Uh, Maximum you can, for the BIG grant, you can apply up to the technology readiness level 3, where the proof of concept has been demonstrated, which means the active research is being initiated, synthesis and characterizations of the product by laboratory studies have been done. So beyond TRL level 3, it generally belongs, it is beyond the scope of BIG. So such proposals are being promoted for some other funding programs. To just to get a more idea about the technology readiness level for different domain areas, like agriculture, drugs, medical devices, and industrial biotechnology, I would recommend that you visit the BIREC website and get a more insight into the technology readiness level for your application. So just to give an example, so there are current trends for the innovative ideas could be which you could think of, for your application process. Could be that you try to identify the key challenges in today's world which needs solution, especially for India. For example, you can think of some solutions for the using biotech and artificial intelligence and visual learning concepts devices for which are mainly imported. Or also you can look for areas where the government is focusing big time and looking to give support through grants, for example pollution, clean environment, waste to wealth, nutrition solution for to the current problems like various disease management. You can also look for consumer trends that are changing, and there might be a niche area in India, for example novel food, uh, like alternative proteins for plant-based proteins, or new trends in food processing, or eco-friendly soaps, or big data analysis in agriculture. So these are my uh, this comes from my experience by where the applicants usually fail while they are applying for the PIG grant, and their application gets rejected because of the lack of in one of these criterias while they are applying for the application. So the team lacked the technical expertise. So having a sound team is very important. If you're having people who do not have the technical expertise, or the main PI does not have a technical expertise, the chances of getting rejected becomes really high. Try to have an overall clinical study design program for your proposed work. If you are proposing something in the diagnostics or drugs or devices subdomain area, have a overall proposal. The applicant failed to analyze the technical challenges while writing the application, and they do not had the plan to overcome those challenges. Having challenges while executing the program is very common, so you should have a sound strategy how you're going to overcome the technical challenges. Add a relevant advisor to your team and have some preliminary data or experience with handling. If you do not have the primary data, try to back your idea with the extensive uh, literature study, back it up with that, and propose something which has some value. Also have a strategy how you're going to scale up your work. This problem generally happens with the industrial biotechnology proposals, where people are able to uh, produce what they have proposed in the proposal at the lab scale level, but they do not have the strategy how they are going to scale up their work while in the industrial scale. So similar products which are already there in the market, or something which is does not have the market potential, also are not promoted in the BIG. And also you should try to bring out the novelty factor of your proposed work. Also have a proper cost benefit analysis. If you're proposing something, what will be the cost when you're coming up with a product, how at what cost you will be selling the product, and what is going to be the difference, uh, the money you're going to make while which comes out uh, while you are making and selling the product. And try to have an overall business plan which includes the proper study, SWOT analysis, and customer acquisition, or how you're going to enter the market. So as I've already said that BIG, if you're in BIG, then you are promoted for various other funding programs like SIBRI or BIPP for scale up of your uh, proposed work. So that's the it assures the follow on funding once you're in the BIG merit list. It's a PIG evaluation is a 4-tier process. So basically, once you have submitted your application through a BIG partner, so your application is being evaluated for preliminary screening of scheme fitness, adequacy of details, and plagiarism. Then after once it is recommended for the online review, the 5 subject experts and business experts evaluate your proposals and they give scores, and based on the cutoff your application, once the surpass the cutoff scores, the application is being promoted for the next round, where the applicant has to face present their ideas or work at the technical evaluation panel round, where they are given scores. Based on the scores, there's once the application qualifies the cutoff round, their applications are being promoted or recommended for by the expert selection committee, and they recommend the proposals for the BIG funding. So why you should choose SISC Kanpur for the application? So SIS at SISC as an entrepreneur, we have apart from BIG, I have already discussed. We have a lot of other funding programs. We provide the applicants with the mentoring, business and academic mentoring, which includes the IIT faculty as well. Plus, we help the applicants with the prototyping and networking with our alumni, angel investors, venture capitalists, and management firms. We also have dedicated intellectual property cells and a technology transfer cell to help the applicant for the product commercialization. Plus, we also connect the applicants with the B2G market, B2B market policy level support, and venture capital connect. Plus, we provide also the regulatory consulting, product consulting, business mentorship, fund for prototype development, advisory for fundraise and innovation fellowships. Coming up to the mentors who we usually approach for our for mentorship and helping our applicants for the market connect or product commercialization. So we have a very extensive mentor pool, and just to give couple of names, prominent names from the industry, we have with us Dr. Ajit Chaudhary, who is the founder of HCL Technologies, Dr. Saurabh Srivastava, who is the founder of Nescom, Mr. Pawan Chaudhary, who is the chairman of MTI and MD of Bygone India. Plus, just to give a couple of more examples, we have with us Dr. Rakesh Bhargav, who is the member of the board and former chairman of Fresenius Kabi Oncology Limited. We have with us Dr. Sanjay Banerjee, who is the former MD and of Zimmer Biomet. Yashdeep Kumar, who is the global R&D head of the Stryker Corporation. Mr. Sanjeev Verma, who is the chairman and advisory board of Catapult Asia and former MD of Baxter India. Mr. Shrikant Shastri, who is the board member of SISC IIT Kanpur and Venture Center Pune and National Expert Advisory Committee of DST Government of India. And Mr. Biplav Paul, founder of Narita Services, and he's also an angel investor. So this is just a couple of examples. If you want to have a glimpse of more mentors in our ecosystem, you can visit our website to get more information on that. So once you have submitted your application, we help you before application, we help you with one-to-one mentoring on grant writing. So I usually recommend applicants to send their draft application for corrections, which will be taken care of by the team. And once the application has been submitted, we help the applicants with the business and technical experts, mentoring with business and technical experts, and we also provide special sessions on IP and regulatory post submission. So for more questions, you can contact me on the email address mentioned on the slide, and also you can register at the website which is mentioned on the top of the page. Now, this was about the SISC ecosystem and the BIG application process. Now I will be moving the session to Professor Nagasuma, who received the grant under the diagnostics subdomain area, and process. Over to you, Professor.
Thank you very much, Rohini. And it's a great pleasure to be here. First of all, we are delighted to have the opportunity to get the grant from BIG, and I think it's been a great journey so far. So to give a little bit of a background, I hope I'm audible to everyone.
Yes, Professor, you're audible.
Okay, great. So I come from a very different, position, because I've been running a lab for a while now and wearing an academic hat. Continue to do that, so I have to juggle between being an academic and an entrepreneur. setting up, translating the discovery in the lab to the innovation and the product in the company, basically. And fortunately, IISc has been nurturing this interest and, in fact, encouraging us to have a startup, and they are providing all the help that is required for the incubation in the campus. So I started my journey in the laboratory as, as a molecular systems biologist, using a lot of bioinformatics combined with experimental validation and so on. So our goal was to understand, one of the questions in my lab was to understand host response to infectious diseases. We started with tuberculosis, but we're looking at others as well. And while doing that, we recognized that one of the things that perhaps a gap in the field is diagnosis itself. And most people were focusing on pathogen material for diagnosis. Of course, molecular tests are better than any other type of test, both in terms of speed and in terms of the specificity you can get. Nothing like looking at DNA, really. So it is useful. So we, instead of looking at pathogen material, because of the many issues that are there, such as a lack of access and being a low bacillary load situation and so on, we thought it will be useful to look at the host response to the infection. And to our surprise, when we looked at an unbiased situation, say our work in the laboratory is more like looking at a helicopter view of what happens in a human being when they're infected with the tuberculosis pathogen, right, or any other pathogen. So that host response was so characteristic, although it involves the same immune system, it involves the same molecules that we have, but it was a very characteristic response. So that's the advantage we wanted to take for developing a product. And we discovered a small RNA panel in the lab, but that was just the beginning. So since it was looking, I mean, we, those of you who have written research articles will be very familiar with this, both in the introduction as well as in the discussion. We start with the requirement in the medical field, and we also end with the statement saying that this research is likely to be very useful for something. And our, whatever work we do ends there. You may get a very nice paper and people may cite it and so on, but it really ends up as a paper and nothing more than that. So a burning desire that I had was to make sure that, what we are saying, try and make it real. And I'm not saying we say false things, but what I'm trying to say is take it more than just a sentence in the manuscript to actual reality, get a product and do that. So after getting into that, I realized that that's a completely different field. You require to put in a lot of effort and understanding and so on. So it's not, you can't take it lightly. So every day, every minute, you need to think about from end to end how you visualize the whole biomarker panel that we have into a product, right? Until it reaches the patient and so on. So in this process, of course, writing the proposal itself, I think, was a first big help. So whether you're successful or not, writing a proposal actually gives you 50% of the understanding that you require. In fact, the very first time we were not successful, it was the second time that we got the grant. And I think, of course, we changed the area. Although our approach was right, the need was not reflected all that well. That was for a different problem. And then we changed it, and it was a very smooth process for us. So I think that was the beginning for me. And wearing a hat, changing it from an academic perspective to an entrepreneur perspective takes some amount of flexibility, and that's what that adaptability is absolutely important. And of course, the team. A team who understands, it doesn't have to be a young team. In fact, one of the challenges we had, unless they hear us speak and see our work, people think that somebody who's crossed a certain age is a problem in the entrepreneurial setup. That doesn't have to be. None of those are actually limitations, hopefully. Of course, I must put a disclaimer and say that this journey is still a little bit in the beginning for me, and I think we are learning as we go along. And it is an uphill task, but then if you anticipate that and you accept the challenges that come along the way, I think it's going to be a great journey and you'll enjoy doing that. So I think perseverance, I think, has been an important thing for us. And a number of discussions, both with SIIC, Aditi, Rohini, and several others, Professor Amitabh. So all of that shaped our proposal quite well. And of course, the expert opinion that we got from many people that SIIC organized, I think that was very useful. So tips to, I think, new aspirants, I would say, believe in your own innovation. You can find the best projection. How you project it is more important, really. So that was the first tip. So again, there's a big difference for us academics. So we want proof, rigorous proof for every word that we speak. So in an entrepreneurial setup, that may not be the case. Of course, you need hard data to stand on the strength of what you're trying to say. So get the technical part absolutely clear. There are gaps in that. There's no way one can cover up those gaps and make a product out of it. So those, even if there are limitations, I think openly talking about it is the first step. So and then we can think of, because I don't think anybody can solve all problems in one proposal. That's not feasible at all. So it can be a very small goal, but it has to be absolutely rigorous. So that's the feeling that I get. I've also been on committees on the other side for looking at proposals. So it depends on what, of course, academic ones are different from this. But if the gaps are all cleared, if the thinking is absolutely seamless, I think you have a very good chance. So the end-to-end thinking. So for example, when we started, we thought we will just get the prototype, proof of concept, and perhaps that may be sufficient, right, for this proposal, because the amount of money is finite and how much more can I do and so on. And then as we went along, we realized that we don't need to do everything, but then we need to think about everything. So I think that's a big difference. That was a key help that we got, and that made it easy. So although you're not able to do, you don't have to put it in the proposal, but you need to think what is the next step and what are the hurdles there, what are the gaps there, and what is the next step, all the way up to going to the product. If you have a diagnostic product, you visualize seeing that in the hands of the pathologist who will be actually using it for, or a clinician who will be prescribing it for diagnosis. So until that, so what are all the steps involved? And one may not know everything, but thinking about it and constantly filling the gaps, I think, is a very good way to start. So that's been my personal experience. So there is no presentation, I'm just speaking. So somebody's been asking. So since this is just general talking, so I didn't make a presentation. Okay. Okay. So the other the points that I have is you keep refining your thoughts. And I think making a presentation and listening to it yourself is also a very good way to do that, and present it to your team members. Think about it rationally, be your own reviewers, as much as possible. And that's what we did. We constantly scrutinized and criticized our own ideas so that we could refine it, right? Not to be discouraged by that, because there may be problems, but to refine it. You constantly refine your thoughts and articulate it in a very, very clear sentence. Each sentence should be very clear in the proposal. I think that was useful. Of course, there are hurdles and bottlenecks. And again, one of the big hurdles was, how do you fit in the so many requirements that are there for taking from TRL 3 to say even TRL 6 or 7 in a small amount of money, right? And small amount of time. So what are the hurdles? There's so many uncertainties along the way. Again, I think you can just say perhaps the portion that you're going to focus on will be the main thing, and how you will even link up, or what are your thoughts of taking it into the future would be useful. So this is one of the hurdles or bottlenecks that we faced, and that's how we were able to overcome that. And I hope that will work for you as well. The next thing was to understand the competition. So again, one of the experiences that we have is there is no product similar to ours in the market. Right? So, but that's not the way to look at it at all. So the way to look at it is, what are people doing currently to achieve the same goal? The product may not be similar, but they may be doing something else. They may be relying on the expertise of a clinician, or they may be doing completely orthogonal methods they may be using. And that's the competition. So how to articulate the competition itself was a learning that we got along the way. And how to handle when there is actually competition, even when it is similar to your own product. Right? I think there are two methods. A is to refine your product so that it becomes as unique as possible. Unique could be just in terms of cost, or in the sense improvement in terms of cost or accuracy, or whatever that may be, more appeal in some form or the other. So that's the first arm. The second arm was actually finding the niche projection. Is there a use case that is not satisfied or met by someone else? Or if it is also met by someone else, is it enough to cater to the entire world, or the world that you're looking at least? So the projection of the niche market area itself is a good understanding. And some starting from some back of the envelope calculations, I think we're able to refine the market landscape and the projection itself quite well as we went along. And I think that was a very useful experience. So later it's been helpful currently as we move forward and then talk to people, other stakeholders in the process. And another important tip, I think, is pay attention to the regulatory processes. What does the country require anybody to do to actually take it to the product? So what are the requirements? Is there a clinical trial? Is there a regulatory process? How do you get the permission? How long does that take? How much money does it involve? All of those, again, are important things. And I think talking about this specific area, one of the difficulties that we've had is, as an academic, as a professor, when I approached people, say clinicians or hospitals, I've not had to pay any money for clinical trials. But when you wear an entrepreneur hat and then take your product forward, the situation is quite different. Right? So one needs to budget for those kinds of things. May or may not be aware of it. So it's good to talk to as many people as possible. And we find that there's a lot of help from that SAIC can link you up with, and there are many other avenues by which you can get this information. It's not easy, but if one perseveres, it is possible to do that. Right. So these are some of the thoughts. I hope it's been useful, and to all the aspirants, wish you all the very best, really. And thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Professor. I think you covered some of the really important points, which are very, very important application. This includes the competition or regulatory, having regulatory approvals, or have how much technical data, and how to just identify that you're in the right track. So that was very, very insightful. So secondly, now I will be moving to Parini, who is the founder of Zero Cow Factory. She received the grant for her novel idea. They are trying to produce a protein, animal-free protein in the lab through fermentation. So over to you, Parini.
Thank you so much, Rohini, for giving me such a wonderful opportunity, and we are very grateful to receive the big grant from the IIT Kanpur. So, means I am Parini Kapadia, means I'm a founder and chief scientific officer of Zero Cow Factory. Being the R&D researchers from last decade years, means doing the R&D in the field of dairy analysis, microbiological research, and clinical microbiological research in the laboratory, in the research center. Then I thought about that alternative protein and the smart protein sector, which is the nowadays necessary things. So the smart protein and the alternative protein is a fancy word, but it's not a new terms. So these are the what is the smart protein? What are the alternative proteins? So these are the smart or alternative proteins are the dairy or the egg-based protein or the meat-based protein, which we produce without any animal involved. So when we talk about the smart protein, alternative protein, or cellular agriculture space, there are three different kind of the categories under the smart protein sector. First is the plant-based, which we are already known about the plant-based, like in market, the soy-based milk, almond-based milk, oat milk are already available. So that's one category involved under the plant-based category. Second category is a precision fermentation. So it's a technology which allow to produce one specific kind of the molecule using the fermentation technology. And third one is a cultivation based method. So this technology is nowadays useful for the production of the meat or the cell based seafood using the stem cell technology or using the cultivation animal part technology. So these are the three broad categories which are involved into the smart protein sector. So regarding my company Zero Cow Factory means we are the precision fermentation based technology. So we are the India's and even Asia's first company producing the animal free dairy and the food ingredient using precision fermentation. Now, why means we have chosen this idea, or why we are choose this particular solution? Because regarding the problem behind this solution is very massive. Means when we talk about the traditional dairy farming or animal agriculture, so it's a big problem. Means data suggests that we need to produce more food in next 40 years than we have in last 10,000 years combined. And currently, the traditional food production method which we are using is not sufficient and not sustainable. Second most important point about the traditional dairy farming is that it's a responsible for the 1/5 of the global greenhouse gas emission, which is equivalent to the entire transportation industry. And when we talk about the traditional dairy farming, so it leads to the many factors like a degradation of the arable lands, shortage of water. Then we need to feed the more food to the cow to get the protein. Like the ratio between the cow feeders and to get the protein from the cow is a 6:1. So we need to feed the 6 amount of protein to the cattle to produce 1x amount of the protein. And technically the animal is means animal whatever the cattle is producing means milk is for the babies, not for us. So these are the some factors means which keep in our mind, and then we have jumped to this solution to produce the nature identical milk protein in the laboratory. So we produce the milk proteins in a laboratory using two concepts: bioengineering the microbes and precision fermentation technology. And when the science allow means we don't want to be just an alternative protein company. When the science allow us to make the product better and better, hence our product doesn't contain any lactose, saturated fat, or the growth hormone pathogen which are not suitable for our body. So we keep only good part in our product and remove the bad part. So it's all about the Zero Cow Factory. And regarding means BIG grant, so after having the means some POC and the validation in laboratory for one protein, then we have applied the big grant to means IIT Kanpur means for the another protein production at the laboratory scale. So I think means when we talk about the BIG grant means through IIT Kanpur, our process is very smooth and very means the staff for means of the IIT Kanpur, the Rohini and the team is very helpful to make the process means application process means very smooth process, means they help us very in a different way. So before applying the big grants means I want means from my experience means I want to tell means all the participants to give the some points. Means before applying to the big grant, think about your problems. Means how big is your problem and how you are going to solve this problem using your biotechnological based solution. This is the one of the main important point. The second point is the patent and IP means how many patent and IP you are going to create using your solution. Third one is the means uniqueness or the novelty, as Rohini said earlier, that the uniqueness and novelty of your technology. So these are the some important points before you are going to start your solution or before you are going to start your research journey or your entrepreneur journey. And then after that, think global. When you are thinking about your solution, think global. Do not restrict yourself for particular nation wise or particular, think global problem. So that's these are the some points means which will help helpful for your startup to scale in a future or for your journey through the big grant application. Now means the bottlenecks and the when we talk about the what are the hurdles and bottlenecks in our journey means so yeah, one more point means think about your solution that are unique in the market. Not think about the solution which are readily available in the market, which reduces your chances to scale this startup. Second one is to you should have a strong technology which is not easily copied by the competitors in the market. And third point about the bottlenecks or the any hurdles means is that if your solution doesn't allow enough room or enough time for the pattern application, think about the pattern or IP creation from the day one, and if possible apply for the provisional pattern in India, which will give us to the time to your research for the research period for the to do the research. So these are the some point means I want to give means to the all the participants which will helpful to your journey for the entrepreneurship and for the BIG grant application. And all the best to the all the participants. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Parini. Parini, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the insight, especially yes, you covered the point related to intellectual property filing the patents. This is something very, very important while you are writing BIG application. If you don't have, if you have not filed the IP application, so you can, if you have filed and you have not been granted the patent, you can mention the IP number in the application. And you have not, if you have not filed the application, at least you can mention that you will be filing a patent very soon. So this is actually a very important point. So we'll be taking questions from the audience now because we just have last 7 minutes for the webinar. So there is one question regarding the uh, regulatory approval. So I would request Professor Nagasuma if you can answer this question. If this is what are the parameters one must take care in proposal before the regulatory approval.
Right. Yeah, it's a pretty involved process. I think getting a regulatory approval is not simple. We have not reached that stages yet, but from what I'm understanding, you need to plan for that right from day one. So it's better to speak to a regulatory consultant of of somebody who's been familiar with the process, and they'll guide you for your specific application. What you should do right from day one. You think they need the data and the records in a very specific manner. Notebooks have to be separate and so on. So what data do you require to be able to apply? So that is what I think you should plan for right now. Yeah, I think that's all I can share at this stage in my journey. I'm sure the regulatory consultants will tell you much more on that. So
Yes,
did it
Professor.
answer the question? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Or if anybody is having. Okay.
Ma'am, you're not audible at all.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So there is one. Okay, Parini, do you have any points for the BIG application not to do the mistakes, to avoid the mistakes while writing the application?
Hello.
Yeah.
Your voice is cracking in between.
Parini, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay, so do you have any tips for not to don't do the grant writing, BIG grant writing, to avoid the mistakes while writing the application?
Okay. So for writing the application during the big grant means before applying to the big grant means keep some points in your mind. First of all means be clear about your technology. Means first of all, as professor said earlier, that write the proposal regarding your solution. So this will clear your idea about the technology and how you are going to solve this problem. Now that second one is to the financials, means how you are going to finance your projects. So this is the one of the important factor, means during the application of the BIG grant, because how much finance you will going to use for your equipment, and how much finance you will going to use for your patent. So these are the some factor like the financing of your project. The second point is that third means is that the project milestones, means before applying to the big grant, means be clear about your project milestone and the time duration of your project. So these are the some tips, means I want to give, means before applying to the big grant.
Okay, there's one question regarding the scale up issues, but I guess, Parini, you're still standardizing the process in the lab, but you do have process in place, to mitigate the scale ups, right?
Yeah.
Mitigate the hurdles in the scale up.
Okay. So for scale up means as we are using the precision fermentation technology, means for the production of the protein. So for industrial bar technology, the scaling up your technology from the laboratory scale to the commercial level, it's a challenging job, means as I said. So start first with the laboratory scale and optimize your process at the laboratory scale for means in the industrial biotechnology. Once you optimize that particular whole process in the laboratory scale, then start to the start from laboratory scale to the demo scale. It's a like some small level scale, like in fermentation capacity, it's like to 5 to 50 liter fermentation capacity. So it's a like a demo scale, then jump to the pilot scale, then the commercial scale. So moving ahead with your process from scale to scale, like from the laboratory scale to the demo scale, pilot scale, and then commercial scale, that I will advise. And try to spend as much as time for the optimizing your process at each scale. Like at demo scale, try to spend as much as time to optimize the scale. So it's a one of the key factor for the successful of the commercial level of the production.
I think that was really insightful, Parini, regarding the scale up. Do we have any other questions from the participants? So this is the last minute for the webinar. So if the participants are not having questions at the moment and they feel they have questions later on, they can write to us. Uh, the webinar recording and other details will be shared with them after the webinar is over. So I thank you everyone for participating and attending the webinar, and I thank the grantees as well, Professor Nagasuma Chandra and Mrs. Parini Kapadia, for taking the time out for this webinar. Thank you everyone, and thank you so much for joining, and I'll be closing the webinar now.
Thank you very much. Great pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.